To EVTN News, everyone. Your source for Catholic news. Although I'm not a news channel, I'm a commentator. I comment on the news. I gotta clarify that because someone was really offended that I claim to be a news reporter. Well, I talk about the news, so there's that. But uh, let's start with the first story. Bishop Peter Jugas of the Diocese of Charlotte, North Carolina, is retiring at the age of 67 after leading the diocese for 20 years. The outgoing bishop is set to be replaced by Franciscan Father Michael Martin, OFM, of Atlanta. Martin, age 62, is the present pastor of St. Philip Benizi Parish in Jonesboro, Georgia. Jugas had submitted a letter of resignation to Pope Francis last June, well before the normal episcopal age of 75, I believe. He was at age 67, so 8 years early, citing a chronic but non-life-threatening kidney condition, which he said made lengthy liturgies and travel throughout the expansive diocese difficult for him to accomplish. In a press conference with Jugas present, Bishop-elect Martin assured Catholics of Charlotte that he did not intend to make any changes to the present determinations about the availability of Latin Mass within the diocese. During the press conference, when asked by journalists about Pope Francis's stance on LMNOPs, Martin praised the pontiff's approach of welcoming everyone, while claiming the Pope has consistently upheld the Church's teaching on life and marriage. So he's a Francis bishop, and he made that very clear in his press conference. A little bit scary, isn't it, for the Catholics of Charlotte? All right. Catholic priest and theology professor Father Manfred Hauke, Hauke, has to stand. Is it Hauk? I'm going to call him Hauk. Has intended to stand trial. Has to stand trial at a criminal court in Switzerland for publishing an article critical of LMNOP clergy. The court case was triggered after the German priest appealed a fine that he received in December 2022. The priest described such groups as a colony of parasites that cares first of all for itself and not for the host at whose expense it lives, and as a LMNOP plague, or a cancer that is even ready to kill its host, among other things. Wow, so he had some very strong and based language in regards to LMNOPs, and now the woke government is unhappy about it, so he's facing court time for it just for speaking the truth. So that's unfortunate. It would be nice to see his bishop stand behind him, but I don't think that's going to happen. Stay tuned for that news closer towards the end. All right. 6 dioceses in the west of Ireland are to be led by 3 bishops. So, 6 dioceses, 3 bishops. Okay, that's not typical. A seismic change was announced on April 10th, along with changes in the episcopate. The Irish nuncio Archbishop Luis Mariano Montemayor sugarcoats the massive decline in the formerly Catholic country by talking of new challenges and pooling resources to increase vitality. A full merger will take place if this process evolves still further. See, they use the language like, oh, it's evolving, vitality, all this stuff. One of the bishops who's involved in the merger, Bishop Kevin Duran, spoke of the possibility of a new spring. So they're still stuck on the new springtime of Vatican II, and this is the new springtime of Vatican II, really. It is. So he's accurate when he says it is a possibility of a new spring. It is the new spring. It's the fulfillment of the new spring. This is the culmination of Vatican II. Italian blogger Marco Felipe Perfetti has been charged by the Vatican with slandering Francis and allegedly revealing secrets. Perfetti has brought the allegations against Father Marco Rupnik to light. The Vatican Criminal Court so that was earlier last week. And then the Vatican Criminal Court, in a short hearing less than 30 minutes on Friday, declared that it had no jurisdiction to rule on a case against the blogger Marco Perfetti. The judge found that there was no need to proceed against the defendant due to lack of jurisdiction. But the fact that it even went to court is very concerning, right? I mean, shouldn't anyone be concerned that Francis is defending Rupnik? I mean, it's pretty clear at this point. Are you slandering Francis, or are you just very concerned that he's defending a Jesuit criminal? Really, I mean, he's a criminal. Francis, yeah, but more friends of Francis. Francis praised Bishop Thomas Gumbleton, who died on April 4th, for his alleged witness as a pastor, a good shepherd, reports the National Catholic Distorter. In a letter written for the prelate's 94th birthday on 26th of January, Francis gave the very spiritual message that bad weeds never die. Gumbleton was an auxiliary bishop of Detroit from 1968 until his retirement in 2006. He was a rigid and ideological LMNOP activist and dissenter from Christ's teaching, for example, on the non-existent ordination of women. LMNOP propagandist Joseph Tobin, the Cardinal Tobin of Newark, New Jersey, arranged for Francis to write to the legendary bishop, said Sister Sue Sadler, a close friend of Gumbleton. So the LMNOP network is alive and well, and Francis is expressing his support for them. Okay, back to Switzerland. The Catholic Church in Switzerland announced plans this week for the creation of a new national synodality commission. That's right. The new body will test forms of synodal decision-making at the national level for a 5-year trial period. So they're inventing their own variation of the German synodal way. And this is probably why priests who say things against LMNOPs are taken to court, and I would be surprised if his bishop actually stood up for him. I mean, that's why it's not much of a surprise, because they're creating the German synodal way, which is the way to schism. Really, the German synodal schism, and the Vatican synodal schism. Yes, the Vatican, can it be schismatic against itself, or can it be a bunch of false? Can it be like a false parallel church? I don't know. I ask the questions, and it's up to you to make the answer, to determine the answers. All right, Cardinal Ouellet is in some hot water. Vatican spokesman Matteo Bruni, I believe, was Ouellet charged with something? I don't know. Vatican spokesperson Matteo Bruni confirmed on April 13th that the Secretariat of State has sent a note to the French embassy to the Holy See regarding the recent conviction of Cardinal Marc Ouellet in France. According to the note, the Holy See learned from the press of the decision of the Court of Lorient in a civil case concerning the dismissal of Sister Marie Ferriol from the Dominican Sisters of Pont-Calec, who are about to change from the Latin rite to the Novus Ordo. Ouellet was ordered to pay Sister Marie more than 180 euros or 180,000, I would imagine, but allegedly never received any writ of summons from the court. He had conducted an apostolic visitation of the Sisters of Pont-Calec in the name of Francis. At the end of the visitation, Sister Marie was dismissed from the community. There were certainly concerns about Ouellet's connections to some of the nuns. I believe one of them was a personal friend. Bishop, and listen to this. This is where things get very interesting. So the full story of the case is that she was, her dismissal was what would I say, like, I don't want to say invalid, but it was not an appropriate dismissal, and as a result, she won a court case against Ouellette. Bishop Joseph Strickland, the former bishop of Tyler, provided refuge to Sister Marie after she was expelled from her community in 2021. This is one of the reasons why Francis removed Strickland in November of 2023. So that's where the connection happens. So Ouellette and Francis banished this nun from a community that was switching from the traditional rite to the Novus Ordo. And so Strickland took her in because she was banished. And that was one of the reasons why Strickland got kicked out. But the French court seems to agree with Strickland over Francis. And so do Catholics. All right, so I do have, and you know, here I'm not here to hide anything, and it's very clear where my support lies. But the SSPX, the former superior of the USA, a priest of the SSPX, former superior of the USA. I believe he has a name, but I don't see it in this article. Anyway, he's 58 years old. He was a former superior from 2008 to 2014. I'm sure you can find his name somewhere. I just don't have it in front of me. He appeared before a criminal court in Gap, France. He was accused of molesting. Let's see. He says he has always fought against the attraction and perhaps in an attempt to blame others for his actions, claimed to have alerted the SSPX on several occasions. However, it was not until 2014 that his inappropriate behavior was brought to their attention. So who knows what the real story is, but they removed him in 2014. He has been since then. He has been subject to disciplinary control within the SSPX. In 2019, when the superiors learned of the existence of offenses under the jurisdiction of the courts, they reported them to police. So, yeah, not good. Not a great look. And church militant, former church militant people are rejoicing at the news that an SSPX priest did something wrong. And, well, you know, since in light of the recent revelations from Francis, since he has infinite capital punishment of the crimes, which looks pretty disgusting. But Francis wouldn't, because he has because this monster, I guess is what you call him. What a monster! That's probably an appropriate term. He has infinite dignity, and so we don't do those things, right? This is the Francis Church. This is Vatican II. This is the new Pentecost. This is the new springtime, and we don't follow that old rigid stuff, and we don't want to we don't want to punish someone for ruining people's lives. So, okay, I do. I'm not part of the Francis Church. Okay, so Archbishop Laurie crushed Latin Mass. At least one in Hagerstown. He said, as this transition period will soon be coming to a close, it is now important to share what would take place after the indult expires in August. After much careful and prayerful consideration, I have discerned that for the pastoral good of all the faithful, blah, 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 Mass will be entrusted solely to the FSSP at the National Shrine of St. Alphonsus in Baltimore. Okay. All right. The last sentence is really kind of pathetic. The charism, constitutions, formation, and experience of this community make them best suited to and most capable of celebrating the sacraments and providing pastoral care in the long term, according to the norms of the Holy See, for those who, for whatever reason, have not been able to make the transition to the Novus Ordo. No, we reject it. People like me who grew up in the Novus Ordo and now reject it. Yeah. Have not been able to make the transition. No, I'm not going back. Sorry. Not sorry. It's just whenever you see it, I mean, you can't watch Mass of the Ages Part 2 and not realize what happened. Novus Ordo is the Novus Ordo Mass and sacraments were created by a Freemason, and it's like putting lipstick on a pig. Okay. Pretty simple. Meanwhile, the Archdiocese of Baltimore, I'm not sure if this is set in stone, but they intend to close 2/3 of the city's Catholic parishes. So in the city of Baltimore, there are 60. So I have some statistics, and I don't know how necessarily correct they are, but I'm going to try to. Anyway, okay. In 1950, there were 250,000 registered Roman Catholics in the city of Baltimore. Today, that number is 8,000. There are 61 parishes for the 8,000. Certainly not that many attend Mass weekly. Over 600 attend Mass at the Shrine of St. Alphonsus Liguori, which is the FSSP chapel. So I guess do the math at how many people are registered where, and that's why they're closing 2/3 of the parishes, and they probably could close more and still be fine, but apparently they're expecting to run off a lot of the people because people just get mad when you close churches. But if you're the only one showing up for Mass, then you better be funding it. Because if you're not able to fund the church, then it can't really stay open, right? I mean, it just makes sense. You have to break even. That's sort of the goal of nonprofits, is to break even. Because if you continuously lose money, where's the money coming from? Is it coming from the immigration money from Catholic Relief Services or Catholic Charities? Or really, seriously, where's the money going to come from if you have 10 people show up for a Sunday Mass? How can that church stay open? I mean, I'm sure there's some savings, but eventually that's going to be gone, and that's it. Are there any other stories? Oh boy. I have stories coming in fast. I'm definitely going to be saving some for next week. I saw a few, and I have to save them for next week because they're just coming in fast, and I haven't had time to research them. Ooh, okay, yeah. World War III. You probably heard about that. Okay, with the Middle East, and man, I'm not gonna. I'm not going to get into that, but you can probably. I mean, it's crazy to think that. What would I say? It's crazy to support either side, but I think the U.S. is sticking their nose in it, and they should just get the heck out and let the dust settle where it does. If the Mohammedans were to take over Jerusalem, would they allow tourists? I guess is the question. I don't know. I mean, it is a holy city for Christians. It would be nice to visit there safely. I mean, it would be nice to have people visit there safely. And it's always a threat. In Australia, there was a bishop attacked during a sermon. The Assyrian Church of the East. And I didn't watch the live stream, but he was taken to the hospital. But I think he was okay. Oh, he seems like a pretty base guy. He rose to prominence during the virus insanity by criticizing the lockdowns. Okay. But Australia seems like there's some violent attacks going on, and you know, these people are crazy. Like after the virus, people are just absolutely crazy. Let me check and see. Did anyone leave any comments in the live chat now? I'm happy to take any comments. This is obviously a different platform than the last time. I don't have as nice graphics as I did on my laptop, but it takes so long to start up. It's just I don't know. Maybe if I could come up with some kind of setup, that might be nice. But just working with limited space, working with a lot of limited space, so it's tough. And then, okay. And then I have some books to read. Actually, what's absolutely crazy. So I just noticed 2 Fatima books that I have. I just happened to look over at my bookshelf. I have two books. Oh man, that's crazy. I didn't even I forgot. I completely forgot that I bought those books. And the one was quoted in my what was it, the Fourth Secret of Fatima. I just released that review just, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, and it quoted one of the books, and it kind of criticized what the author Sochi referred to as a traditionalist perspective. And then I found that book and I was like, oh, this is great. And I found another book about it, so that's going to be really interesting. I it just dawned on me. I had no idea that I bought both, and that was that was after I'd finished reading the Fourth Secret of Fatima. Anyway, that's so neat. I have so many books I want to read through, so I don't know when I'll get to it, but it might be helpful to read those while that stuff is fresh in my mind. There's just so much in the Fourth Secret of Fatima. Um, Sort of pointing out the inconsistencies, and I books draws conclusions. One of the authors of at least one of the 2 books draws conclusions as to like what the third secret actually means, which is taking it obviously a step further. Excuse me, taking it a step further, and it's not doctrinal, very clearly. But yeah, definitely very excited about that. And I've also picked up a few books written by and about John Muir. This is very far off topic, but he was what you consider like an 1800s. I want to say like mid to late 1800s environmentalist. And the environmentalists back in that day, now he did lobby for Congress to create the national park system, which he was successful somewhat because he liked the Yosemite Valley and the Valley of Hetchy, I think is what it's called. And he lost the battle for Hetchy, if you call it a battle. That they did create a dam there, and it's now a lake and not a valley. But Yosemite is preserved, and it's because of John Muir that it is preserved. But I mean, so modern day environmentalists, they fly on a private jet to a climate conference. They're very wealthy. And they talk about, I mean, Francis talks about worship. He talks about sort of the eco-theology type of stuff, but it's I don't know that the climate activists talk about that. They talk more about population control. John Muir talked about preservation of forests, and he would regularly hike 30-mile days through the mountains. I mean, if you've ever seen the Sierra Nevada mountains in California, unbelievable. Just I say they're even more beautiful than the Rockies. That's my personal opinion. Let me know what you think. If you've seen both the Sierra Nevada mountain range and the Rockies, let me know which one was your favorite. Um, Although I will say, when I was in the Rockies, I was in Rocky Mountain National Park in the morning and it was foggy, and so I was like, oh, these are pretty high mountains. And then the clouds started to clear, and I was like, oh, there's a view. And then as they cleared more and more, just the view got more increasingly incredible till the fog cleared out, and I saw snow-capped mountains, unbelievable. Just takes me back a few years to think about that. But no, I mean, I really enjoy outdoors, and I think I think as Catholics, it's certainly what do I say, a real blessing that we have forests and just natural features, and hiking is a real there's a lot of benefits to hiking, just clearing your mind, and maybe what do they call it, detox from technology, shut off your technology. Although I take a camera, so I'm not completely shut off from technology when I go on a hike. But yeah, so that's just sort of a very, very long-winded side note on, modern environmentalists versus the old school environmentalists. They would actually interact with the natural environment. John Muir tells a story about how he lit a fire. Oh, I don't know. It was a bonfire. I don't know if he wanted to. I forget what his purpose was. I think he wanted to see what the trees look like at night or something. And there were like Indian tribes nearby, and they were freaked out at his gigantic bonfire that he made because they thought the world was ending or something. The light was so bright from the bonfire that that he lit that it freaked out some some people nearby. So he has some really unique stories. He was probably a very, very like introverted person. Probably didn't talk very much to anyone or interact very much, because he was just mostly concerned with hiking and exploring. He discovered parts of Alaska. Well, I don't want to say that, but he was an American who sort of popularized parts of Alaska. And yeah, just really unique experiences. I'm excited to read about him, read books by him, and yeah, it's really interesting in my opinion. Of course, a lot of the theology books that I've reviewed are really interesting as well. So, and then I'm gonna go way off topic again. I have a book written by Edward Snowden, so I'll let you know what that is like if I do get around to reading it. So, okay, maybe not on a book review, but I see more mergers, and that will be a show topic. So, okay. Until next time, thank you so much for watching EVTN News. We are the laity, and we will not be silent.